The Gift of Cochise, Part 2. Ed Lowe had built the cabin in West Dog Canyon in the spring of 1871, but it was Angie who had chose the spot, not Ed. In Santa Fe, they would have told you that Ed Lowe was good-looking, shiftless, and agreeable. He was also, unfortunately, handy with a pistol. Angie's father had come from County Mayo in New York, and from New York to the Mississippi, where he became a tough, brawling river boatman. In New Orleans, he met a beautiful Cajun girl and married her. Together, they had started west for Santa Fe, and Angie was born en route. Both parents died of cholera when Angie was 14. She lived with an Irish family for the following 3 years, and then married Ed Lowe when she was 17. Santa Fe was not good for Ed, and Angie kept after him until they started south. It was Apache country, but they kept on until they reached the old Spanish ruin in West Dog. Here there was grass, water, and shelter from the wind. There was fuel, and there was pinyons and game. And Angie, with an Irish eye for land, saw that it would grow crops. The house itself was built on the ruins of an old Spanish building, using the thick walls and floor. The location had been admirably chosen for defense. The house was built in a corner of a cliff under the sheltering overhang, so that approach was possible from only 2 directions, both covered by an easy field of fire from the door and windows. For 7 months, Ed had worked hard and steadily. He put in the first crops, he built the house, and proved himself a handyman with tools. He repaired the old plow they had bought and cleaned out the spring and paved and walled it with slabs of stone. If he was lonely for the carefree companions of Santa Fe, he gave no indication of it. Provisions were low, and when he finally started off to the south, Angie watched him go with an ache in her heart. She did not know whether she loved Ed. The first flush of enthusiasm had passed, and Ed Lowe had proved something less than she had believed. But he had tried, she admitted, and it had not been easy for him. He was an amiable soul, given to whittling and idle talk, all of which he missed in the loneliness of the Apache country. And when he rode away, she had no idea whether she would ever see him again, and she never did. Part 3. When Santa Fe was far away to the north, but the growing village of the El Paso was less than 100 miles to the west, it was Ed Lowe's road for supplies and seed. When he had several drinks, his first in months, one in the saloons. As the liquor warmed his stomach, Ed Lowe looked around agreeably. For a moment his eyes clouded with worry as he thought of his wife and children back in the Apache country. But it was not in Ed Lowe to worry for long. He had another drink and leaned on the bar, talking to the bartender. All Ed had ever asked of life was enough to eat, a horse to ride, an occasional drink, and companions to talk with. Not that he had anything important to say, he just liked to talk. Suddenly a chair grated on the floor, and Ed turned. A lean, powerful man with a shock of uncut black hair and a torn, weather-faded shirt stood at bay. Facing him across the table were 3 hard-faced young men, obviously brothers. Chess Lane did not notice Ed Lowe watching from the bar. He had eyes only for the men facing him. "You done that deliberate." The statement was a challenge. The broad-chested man on the left grinned through broken teeth. "That's right, Chess. I done it deliberate. You killed Dan Tover on the Bravos. He made the quarrel. Comprehension came to Chess. He was boxed, and by 3 of the fighting, blood-hungry Trovers. Don't make no difference, the broad-chested Trover said. Who sheds a Trover's blood by a Trover's hand must die. Edlow moved suddenly from the bar. 3 to 1 is long odds, he said, his voice low and friendly. If the gent in the corner is willin', I'll side him. 2 Trovers turned towards him. Edlow was smiling easily, his hand hovering near his gun. You stay out of this, said one of the brothers harshly. I'm in, Ed replied. Why don't you boys light a shuck? No, by the man's hand dropped to his gun and the room thundered with sound. Ed was smiling easily, unworried as always. His gun flashed up and he felt it leap in his hand and saw the nearest Trover smashed back, and he shot him again as he dropped. He only had time to see Chess Lane with 2 guns out and another Trover down when something struck him through the stomach. He stepped back against the bar, suddenly sick. The sound stopped. The room was quiet. There was the acid smell of powder smoke. 3 Trovers were down and dead. Edlow was dying. Chess Lane crossed to him. We got 'em, Ed said. We sure did, but they got me. Suddenly his face changed. Oh, Lord in heaven, what'll Angie do? And he crumpled to the floor and lay still. The blood stained his shirt and mingled with the sawdust. Stiff-faced, Chess looked up. Who was Angie? He asked. His wife, the bartender told him. She's up northeast somewhere in Apache country. He was telling me about her. 2 kids, too. Chess Lane stared down at the crumbled, used-up body of Edlow. The man had saved his life. 1, he could have beaten. 2, he might have beaten. 3, he would have killed him. Edlow stepped in when he did and saved the life of Chess Lane. He didn't say where? No. Chess Lane shoved his hat back on his head. What's northeast of here? The bartender rested his hands on the bar. Cochise, he said.